Catch this with me, if you will. As you walk into the room, there he is, seated at the table. The tension in the home is so thick you could probably cut it with a knife. He's a big man, a leader, powerful, and he's sitting there with his hands covering his face. We can't quite figure out what's going on, but what we hear is drip, 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 drip. Gathering beneath him between his legs is a puddle of his own tears. And we hear this faint little whisper, so we have to scoot in and get just a little bit closer. And we still can't make it out, so we get a little bit closer and we hear, Adonai, the maker of heaven and of earth. He's praying. This is basically the last thing that he can do. He has no clue what to do next. And I don't know if you are this way, but I'm very curious as to why he is like this. So we move around through the home and it's empty. We make our way back down through the hallway to where the bedroom was. And as we make our way to the bedroom, we can't see her, but we can hear her. Every single breath is a struggle. Her Ima, which is Hebrew for mom, lays right beside her as she struggles every single breath. Her body is so warm that her mom begins to start taking off the jacket, taking off the other shirts and the extra layers because her body radiates so much heat that to even touch it feels like it's a burn. And you can hear Ima just praying and praying and praying. This disease was sucking the life right out of this young 12-year-old little girl's body. Back in the kitchen, the dad just sits there at the table. And this internal dialogue begins to fire off in his brain as he tries to gather up enough strength just to go see him. You should have gone sooner. Like, why would you wait this long? Like, 2 days ago she was fine, and now it's as if it's done. Like, how can you be a good dad? Like, a good dad would try to get help for his only daughter. And then he begins to say, well, if I go get the help that I know that I need, this will cost me my career. This will cost me my job. It'll cost me all of my friendships. It'll cost everything. Finally, he musters up enough strength, and you can hear his ankles crack as he stands. And he walks with a stupor back down the hallway to his daughter's bedroom. You can kind of tell that Ima's given him a little bit of a cold shoulder because she told him 2 days ago, you should have gone. And he didn't. Because he's too prideful to do what his daughter needs done for him. But she lets him touch her hand, kisses her daughter on the forehead, and musters up enough strength to get to the front door. As he stands at the front door, he realizes that on the other side of this threshold, there's future. There's opportunity. But also on the other side of this threshold, walking through this door, is a risk like none other. Because now everybody will know. And we can see him as we're standing in their courtyard. We can see him step over, nope. Step over, nope. Step, nope. Hesitation after hesitation. Then he gets up enough courage to turn one step into two steps into 6 steps, and he begins to walk. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, a completely different neighborhood, totally different than theirs. It's almost as if this man and his little family were the haves. She was the have-not. Now, this just didn't come out of nowhere for her. This was 12 years of constantly fighting, constantly feeling isolated, constantly like, is this ever going to get any better? She too stood at the threshold. Should I? Shouldn't I? Should I? Shouldn't I? The sweat begins to bead up on her forehead because her body is in such intense pain and agony and stress. She had to risk it all to turn 2 steps into 4. And we see in this story the convergence of 2 people desperately defeated by the circumstances of their lives converge on the only one who can help them in a city where nobody wanted this woman or this young girl at all. In Mark chapter 4, we see the disciples endure the literal storm of their life. They thought they were going to die. And at the very end of the story, they ask this question, who then is this that calms the wind and the seas? Like nature obeys him. And we're on a journey. We're going to conclude this next week, but we've been answering this question in our series in the book of Mark. Who then is this? He's the one that stills the storm. He's the one that calms the chaos. And today, he is the one that delivers the defeated. So if you have a copy of God's Word, I'd love to invite you to Mark chapter 5, and we're going to pick up in verse 21 here in just a few minutes. And if you're new with us at Sunrise, we got a lot of new folks with us. We like to have a Bible. So if you don't have a Bible, steal one from somebody next to you. Or you can open up it on your smart device. We love the physical Bible because we like to circle, highlight, asterisk, underline, all that kind of stuff. And we'll get to that in a second. But if you don't have a copy of God's Word, get one right now, access to it so that you can see I'm not making this up. And this is God's words, not my words. And I really would like for you to remember God's Word and not the pastor's word. And so Jesus has left this area called the Gerasenes. If you'll remember from last week, if you don't know the story, he delivers a demoniac, guy who was possessed by, a couple thousand demons, and which is no small sermon. You should go back and listen to that if you haven't. And he comes, and the families and the region and the people of the city said, "Get out of here. We don't want your kind, Jesus. Here, I know you delivered this guy, but you're our only shot at hope. But we'd like to have somebody else or something else." And so they kicked him out, and he left, and he came back to what we now believed to be the region of Capernaum, depending on what part of the world you're from. And in verse 21, this is what it says. The scripture says, "And when Jesus had crossed again in the boat to the other side, a great crowd," everybody say great crowd. You're a great crowd. We appreciate that. Great crowd gathered about him, and he was beside the sea. And immediately what we get introduced to as Jesus shows back up, a great crowd shows back up, and Mark is again comparing and contrasting. Get out of town. I'm ready for Jesus to come in town. You see the comparison and contrast. That's what's happening. This entire story is Mark is comparing and contrasting characters and regions and receptivity and non-receptivity to the message of Jesus. Now, right out of the gate, we meet this particular Jewish synagogue ruler, and his name is really, a lot of us mess it up. It's Jairus. Everybody say Jairus. If you don't believe me, just look at the I in the middle of that. It's not Jairus, it's Jairus. And you got to say it a little bit like you're from the South. Jairus. And that'll help you. So we meet this guy, Jairus. Now, he is a ruler of a synagogue in this particular region. And remember, he went from a Roman region in the Decapolis of the Gerasenes. Now he's back into Jewish territory. And so now he's got this Jewish ruler of the synagogue. Well, what's a Jewish ruler? Thanks for asking. Basically what he is he's like a pastor. Like he runs the business of the synagogue. He runs the weekly school for the children to come to, or the daily school during the week. He runs the budget, runs the building, runs all the stuff, administers worship, all this type of stuff. This guy is like the chairman of the board, the pastor of the pastors. He is a Jew upon Jew upon Jew upon Jew. He is steeped in Jewish religious tradition, to which that poses a problem because of who he's about to encounter. Jesus. This ruler is steeped in this Jewish religious tradition, and Jesus and these religious elites were on opposite sides of the street. It wasn't like they were fans of each other. Jesus is a fan of everybody, but they were opponents to Jesus. They didn't like his ways. They didn't like what he was teaching. They didn't like the ministry that he was performing. And so this ruler comes, and this is a huge risk for this Jewish ruler, because he's saying, all of his buddies, all of his friends, everybody around him, everybody at the synagogue's like, you went to who now? The guy that we hate, the guy that we don't believe is the Messiah, you went to Jesus for help? Come on, man, like you're a Jewish leader here. You're a leader of the synagogue. You know better than to go to this guy. He's a fake Messiah. We don't believe that he's the real Messiah. This is ridiculous. Like, no. You don't do that. No, but he went and risked everything. Look at what the text says. He saw Jesus and he fell at his feet. There's a lot of good that humility does to the heart of a person. He humbly falls at his feet, and he implored him. He begged him earnestly. What did he say? Scripture says, hey, my little daughter. Luke's gospel tells us it's my only daughter. It's my only daughter. She's sick. She's at the point of death. She hasn't died yet, but man, she is knocking on death's door. Come lay your hands on her so that she may be made well. So that she may be made well. What a risk that he comes with this desperation, this urgency, this immediacy that, hey, Jesus, I need your help. I'll do anything to help my little baby girl. How many of us know that when we have children, there's something that kicks into overdrive? Before you had children, it maybe was your spouse. Maybe it's not your spouse, I don't know, but there's just about anything that you would do to help them, no matter how bad the situation would be. I'll take her spot. I'll take his spot. I'll be the one that endures this. I remember when Sydney, she's 13 now, this is a long time ago, but when she was born, she spent 8 days in the ICU at a pretty janky hospital in Tulsa. And I remember through this exchange, Joy had a weird reaction to some medication. I got a baby in NICU, and I'm like, I'll take their place. There's nothing I wouldn't do to take their place, and if I can steal their suffering and put that on me, I'll take it, I'll endure it. Why? Because that's what you do for the people that you love. And that's exactly where Jairus found himself, was I'll risk even the fallout of losing my job, losing my career, no longer being a ruler at the synagogue, no longer being trusted by any Jew in my community. I'll risk it all because I believe that he's the one who can actually turn this situation around. So how is Jesus going to respond to them in this moment? Well, verse 24 tells us. What does it say? He went with him. He went with him. Jesus actually said, all right, I'll go. Now, what's funny is he could have healed him long distance. He's already done that before. He could have done that, just say the word. But he responded to the level of faith that Jairus had. Just come touch her. I believe if you just touch her, I've heard that your touch has miracle power in it. So why don't you just come touch her and you can actually heal her. And this is so incredible because this is where the part of the story intersects with your life. It intersects with my life. It intersects with our lives together in this moment right now. And what all of this means is that Jesus hears our cry for help. Like Jesus hears the cry of a Jewish religious leader who's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with this situation. And my daughter's about to die, and it's a risk for me to come here, and I'm a little worried about all this. But I believe you're the one that can actually step out. I believe you're the one that can actually help. And that is exactly where you and I need to be today. There's nothing in your life that Jesus can't handle. And there's nothing that a little bit of crying out to God for help wouldn't fix. Did you know that there was never a time in Scripture where Jesus encountered a need that he didn't respond to. There's never a moment in the journey of Jesus from 30 to 33 when he died and rose on the cross, in that 3-year span, that Jesus didn't see a need and didn't respond to it. Do you have a need today? Do you have something that just popped up like this illness did for this 12-year-old little girl? Are you in a position of defeat like Jairus and his family? Defeated by this disease? Maybe today you have a defeated home. That's the culture of your home, is just defeat. Maybe you're walking through a defeated season. You've only been in school for 2 days, students, and you are already defeated. Maybe you're defeated in your relationships, at work. I don't know what the defeat might be. But what's the answer? The answer that we learn from Jairus is just cry out to him. Like, come humbly before the Father and ask for help. And that's an answer to a prayer that Jesus always says yes to. He always says yes to, can I help? Jesus, can you help? He's like, nah, forget it, just figure it out on your own. Jesus has never said that. You should say that right now. Jesus has never said that. I don't believe that you believe that, but I'll just believe in faith that it will get somewhere between now and tomorrow, that you believe that Jesus wants to say yes to your prayer of crying out for help. The psalmist says it in Psalm 121, from where does my help come from? Where does it come from? It comes from the Lord. It comes from the Lord. Our help in defeat comes from the Lord. And here's the thing, we learn that from an uber-religious Jewish ruler who risked it all to come and lay before the feet of Jesus and say, I can't do this anymore. What a picture of surrender. Now, Jairus isn't the only person that struggles with defeat. He's not the only one in the story that's backed into a corner that is hurting and enduring pain. As a matter of fact, across town in another neighborhood, there's a young lady who is in desperate need of deliverance. And she makes her way out of her door, crossing through the dirt road streets, hoping and praying that this is the time. And as she's traveling through the city and the market is murmuring and she can't tell, is that the crowd where Jesus is, or is that the market? So she makes her way towards the sound, and it's the market. And as she walks in typical fashion for the last 12 years, she hears, I can't believe she just showed up here. Are you kidding me? She knows better than this. She's going to get us all sick. She's going to infect everybody. This is ridiculous. She's such a loser. This is so dumb. Like, how does she not understand this? And she just hears this over and over and over again. How long after 12 years of hearing that do you start to believe that? She comes to find that Jesus isn't in the market. So then she begins to hear the echo of other large crowds. It's almost as if she put her ear to the ground to feel the murmur, to feel the rumble. And then she begins to walk. And then she begins to pick up her pace. Left turn, right turn, left turn, right turn. Every corner, I hope he's there. Every corner, I hope he's there. Every corner, I hope he's there. To no avail, to no avail. And then she finds them. And in a crowded street, 150, 200 people surround Jesus. So much so the text tells us they thronged him. It just means that Jesus was surrounded to the point where he might not have even been able to breathe. It was suffocating, the level of intensity of that moment. And she tries to sneak in to the crowd. She was on mission. She was doing something with intent and something with purpose. There's no way that she'd be able to get to him. Verse 24 shows us that. They thronged about him. And this woman was coming with a purpose. I find it interesting that Jairus is named, but she is not. Comparing and contrasting these two situations. The desperation of the moment and desperation over a lifetime. This week I found out that Nicodemus from John chapter 3 has some extra writings from the ancient first century world. And he writes the account of this story. And we find out that her name is Veronica. Not just any woman, but a woman with a story. And she's got a severe condition. Veronica has got a serious condition. In verse 25, we find out that Mark doesn't give us the name, but extra biblical literature does. Verse 25 says that there was a woman who had a discharge of blood for 12 years, who had suffered much under many physicians and spent all that she had, and she was no better, but rather grew worse. Now, we aren't told the exact nature of her condition, but the Bible is clear, but yet leaves room. This woman had a constant flow of blood for 12 years. Day in and day out, never ending, never getting better, and never dying, but staying alive. And this condition was physical. There's no doubt that her body was exhausted through the constant hemorrhaging from her body. But it also wasn't just physical, it was also financial. Do you catch that she spent all that she had? I want to be better. I want to be better. I don't want to endure this any longer. Can you sense the real pain that she was in? I'll do anything. I don't care what it is. If you go and research ancient physician directives over the issue of blood, there are weird things like boil cloves in water, put it on your head, and say, it is over. I mean, you can research first century medical practices, and what that was they don't know what they're doing. They have no idea. They're like, I think that'll work. Let's try that. And then give me some money. And then, that didn't work. And then so she goes to the next doctor, and the next thing happens. She goes to the next doctor, and the next thing happens. And they capitalized off of her desperation. And she spent everything that she had. And hear me, loved ones, she didn't get better. She got worse. She got worse. Continually worse, over and over and over and over and over again. It was also social. How is it social? Well, like in our day and age, this probably would be a relatively easy fix. But God knew about the power and the contamination of blood before you did. If you're a first responder, you work in a hospital and somebody's bleeding, what's the first reaction that you have? Glove up. Why? Because you know that there's such thing as microbiology. It's not just macro, big stuff. We see a lot of big things happening. No, there's another little tiny world of organisms that can infect and destroy a body. And God, way back in in Leviticus 15, there's an entire chapter of basically before molecular biology and microbiology ever came out, God was like, yeah, I know something more than you do, and you need to protect yourself from blood. So if you get a cut on your arm, you get a cut on your wrist, you get a cut on your neck, if you cut yourself shaving, which they didn't shave by the way, back then. But if you do that, something happens, like blood is a problem. And so there's this whole long litany of stuff in the Bible that say, hey, if you happen to stumble across someone with blood, don't touch them. Matter of fact, don't be near them. And they become socially unclean and spiritually unclean. They don't get to go to church. They don't get to go hang out with their family. This woman had no husband, had no family, had no church. She literally lived in social isolation. Now, Leviticus tells us if you come into contact with them, you got to go into, you think quarantine's a new thing? No, sir. Not a new thing. And they got to go quarantine themselves. They got to do this special bath. And they got to do all this stuff because they want to make sure that they're not going to be harmed because of the toxins that might be in someone's blood. We don't know if there was toxin in her blood. We don't know what it was. But what we know is that she was physically, financially, socially, and spiritually distraught. I mean, they tacked on ridiculous rules. You can't go to church if this is an issue. You can't be around these people if this is an issue. And imagine the psychological toll that would take on her. Every time going into the market because I have to get food to eat. I have to go get some fabric to make a blanket because I'm freezing at night because my condition is messing up my whole hormones. And so I got to go get a blanket. And then I got to go get a fan. And then I got to get a blanket. And then I got to get a fan. You know the rule. I mean, that's kind of how it works. She makes her way into the market, and she's also in fear of contaminating someone else. And that takes a toll on her psychologically. And then everybody moving out of the way the moment she comes in the room. How long do you have to endure that to believe you're incurable? And it's unchanging. And it's the only constant in your life. That's how she felt for 12 years. For 12 years. It didn't get better. It got worse. Can I just be honest with you? I get the real sense that there might be somebody in this room right now that feels the same way. It's not getting better, it's getting worse. I feel alone just like she does. I feel isolated just like she does. Can I tell you, if you feel that way today, the only thing you can do is the exact same thing she did. You got to come. The text tells us that she came. Verse 27 says that she had heard reports about Jesus. She'd heard reports that he makes blind people see. She even heard reports possibly, maybe already, that Jesus calmed storms. She's already heard that Jesus is the miracle worker, the one whom the Old Testament prophets had prophesied about. That when he comes, that changes everything. And so she heard the news. And the news began to spread that there is hope, that there is forgiveness, that there is new life found in this Messiah who is Jesus. She heard and she's like, I ain't got nothing to lose. Like, I just got to go. I got to find him. And she became this relentless person to say, I got to get to him. I got to get to him. I don't care what I got to do. I got to get to him. 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 And the text tells us that she said, that this gives us a little bit, that she came up behind him. She'd been behind everybody her whole life. She'd been behind the 8 ball her whole life. She'd been alone her whole life. She comes in behind the crowd hoping to secretly just engage with Jesus. And she touched his garment. She touched his garment. Which is extremely taboo because remember, she is socially unclean. And Jesus is a Jewish rabbi. And Jewish rabbis don't touch unclean things unless you're Jesus. And you make a habit out of making the unclean clean. That you make a habit out of going into the darkness and bringing the light of Christ. If you're Jesus, you can take impossible and do anything with that. If I can just touch him. You have to imagine that as she's making her way through the crowd, I kind of try to put myself in the crowd there in the moment and try to, if I could listen to her inner dialogue, she would say things like, why is it going to work this time? Can you imagine herself like, okay, I went through all this effort and I've spent all this money. Like, this is really superstitious. This is awkward. Like, I'm going to go touch him and it's going to work. And then maybe it's the level of, well, that's awesome. You're going to Jesus, but why does he got to be your last resort? Why didn't you try him first? How many of us have said that before in our lives? Yeah, Jesus is my last resort. Well, okay, he's like my little safety net that I'll try all these other things, and then if that doesn't work, then I'll go after Jesus. She begins to beat herself up over these things. Well, Jesus is going to be too busy, or you're not important enough. Why would this work? All these things just become overwhelming to her, And I think she lays it aside and she comes. Risks it everything and comes. Maybe you need to do that today. Maybe you got a lot of inner dialogue that if your spouse knew it or your best friend knew it, you'd be like, dude, do you hate yourself? Like, do you even have any, even an ounce of faith to know that God who began the work in you will see that work come to full completion in you? Do you not believe that if you're in Christ, you're a new creation? You don't just conquer things in Christ, but you're more than a conqueror. I don't know what that is, but it's a supernatural conqueror if you have Jesus in you. Like, there is no condemnation if you're in Christ. If you're outside of Christ, tons of condemnation. There is no conquering outside of Christ, but in Christ, there's conquering, forgiveness, love, and mercy, and freedom. And she lays all of this aside, all of her apprehension, all of her worry, all of her anxiousness, and she lays it aside and says, I'm going. And then you get a little social commentary on the level of confidence that she has. It's almost as if like Mark interviewed her. And in verse 28, we read these words. It's like, so, Veronica, what were you thinking at that time? This is what I was thinking, verse 28. If I touch even his garments, I will be made well. If I can just reach out and touch him, everything's going to be okay. Why was she so full of confidence? Why was she so full of faith? Think about it for a second. Nothing else has ever worked before. Why was she so confident? Well, she knew her Bible. Now, y'all better get ready for this, because this is legit. All right? Are you ready? I don't think you're ready. Joy's ready. Mike's ready. All right, I heard you up there, Randy. All right, here we go. Larry, not Randy, sorry. Why was she confident? Well, she knew her Bible and history was on her side. Check this out. Verse 27 and 28 is a reference to Numbers 15:38. Awesome, thanks for that help. Let me tell you what it says. Tell them to make tassels on the corners of their garments throughout their generations, and put a cord of blue on the tassels of each corner. Sweet. So is this like a sewing class we're going to? I mean, what does this have to do with anything? There's more. It's also a direct reference to Deuteronomy. Check this out. Deuteronomy 22:12 says, you shall make yourself tassels on the four corners of the garments with which you cover yourself. God, you're so weird. Like, that's awkward. God's telling us how he wants us to make our clothing. Okay? So he says, I want you to make these, and I want you to make these robes that these rabbis wear, that these Jewish religious leaders wear, and I want you to put a specific hem around the bottom. And he's using a strategic word on purpose. And then this verse, 27 and 28, here's a great spot. This is awesome. This is a mic drop moment. Here we go. Malachi, Old Testament prophet of Malachi, says, but for you who fear my name, the Son of Righteousness shall rise with healing in its wings. I just got chills. There's a reason that this matters. Her reaching is preaching. Her reaching is preaching. All about this word wings, which can mean tassels, which can mean hem, which can mean skirt, which can mean the edge. What does that mean? Can you help me connect the dots, preacher? Let me help you connect the dots. In Luke's account of this story, he says a detail that Mark left out. We don't know why he did, but he did. And the Bible tells us that Veronica comes through the crowd, and she reaches, and guess what she grabs? The hem of his robe. She was preaching and saying with that reach, he is the Messiah. There is healing in his wings. There is healing in Jesus Christ, the one who would bear the stripes of the lashings that he received from those Roman centurions, from the nails that were spiked into his hand and hanging on that cross. That Jesus, that Messiah, with that one reach, she is now teaching you and me that we can reach in faith to the only one who can heal our pain. He's the only one who can heal our pain. No doctor can heal our pain. No politician can heal our pain. No time can heal our pain. Nothing can heal our pain. She's saying the Messiah is the only one who can heal our pain. And there is healing in his wings. And we find rest, Isaiah tells us, in the shadow of the Almighty, the picture of being under the wings of the very presence of Jesus. This moment right here, this woman just preaches to all of those people, drops the mic, walks off, and says, I'm done. She got it. She got everything she wanted that day. She reached out to the Messiah and received healing, literally, in his wings. He heals her pain. And this teaches us something very, very important. And I've already said it, but I'll say it a different way. What are you reaching to deal with your pain? Because your reach is preaching to your family and to the world and to people at your work and to people in your neighborhood. This is how I choose to cope with my pain. And what you reach for is preaching the message that you believe that that thing will free me. Is it a relationship that you're reaching for? Maybe right now in a world that's uncertain and out of control, you reach for control. If we're all honest, maybe it's a tub of graters is what you're reaching for. And you got the quarantine 15. Maybe it's more information. Maybe it's a lot of things that you would rather me not say out loud. But let me tell you this, or let me ask you this. It's not working, is it? It's not working. The breakthrough that you want, the breakthrough depends on who you reach to. The breakthrough that you want in your spiritual life, the breakthrough that you want this year, students, the breakthrough that you want in your marriage, the breakthrough that you want with your parenting, the breakthrough that you want spiritually, it only is going to happen if you're reaching to the right space and to the right one. The breakthrough that I think we all want depends on who you reach to. Reach to the only one who can heal our pain. The question is are you going to come to him? Risk it all. Risk being seen, risk being known, risk being heard, risk being everybody sees, everybody's got it, everybody knows, I'm a failure, I've messed up. Yeah, but the beauty is he already knows, so it's better just to come. So Jesus responds to the pain, and what she receives, I pray, shakes you and shakes me to the core, like it did for her. Notice that she came and she got everything she prayed for. Look at verse 29. Verse 29 says, and immediately the flow of blood dried up, to which everybody said amen. And notice the text that says she felt it. She'd been feeling it for 12 years. Of course she felt it. Of course she understood what was happening. And she was healed of her disease. Just a couple of thoughts. It was immediate and complete. Notice Mark's favorite word, immediately. It happened immediately. Immediately this thing happened. And I just want to say, God changed the unchangeable thing in her life. Which means God can change the unchangeable constant in your life as well and redeem it for his glory. What is that in your life that hasn't changed, that you've been dragging around for 12 years? Maybe 15 years, maybe a lifetime. And it's the unchangeable constant in your life that has literally now become a security blanket for you. And it's just, it's always going to be there. It's always been like this. My attitude's always been like this. My thoughts have always been like this. I always say things like that. That's so annoying. I hate that about myself. What is the thing that you've been dragging around for so long that now it's got a pet name and it's built up and it's a resident in your life? And God can take the unchangeable constant in your life and change it for his glory. He did it for her. Why wouldn't he do it for you? What, do you think he's that evil? He's not evil at all. He's a good God with a good plan. And that plan includes you being free. She felt it, and so did Jesus. Verse 30. And Jesus, perceiving in himself that the power had gone out from him, immediately turned about into the crowd and said, "Who touched my garments?" Really, Jesus? Can we all agree that that's the dumbest question the Messiah could ever ask? I know you're like, whoa, did he just say that? Yeah, I said that because I felt that. Like, that's dumb. Like, you're in a room, it's like $150, maybe 200 people in the crowd, and you're like, who touched you? People touch you all the time, bro. Don't look at me like I just said something sacrilegious. Look at the text. The disciples said it. The disciples said it. They're like, Jesus. Verse 31, his disciples said to him, "You see the crowd pressing around you, right?" This is a paraphrase. "And yet you say, 'Who touched me?'" The other gospel, the gospel of Luke tells us that, you know who said that? Peter said it. Peter said it. He's like, Jesus, hello, bro. Everywhere you go, people do what? Go ahead, people do what? Yeah, they touch you all the time. Like, that's just kind of the way it works. Like, you touch the dead people and they raise. That hasn't happened yet, but it will happen. And then you touch blind people and they see. You touch deaf people and they hear. You touch people who can't walk, and what do? Oh my gosh, they start running a marathon. I mean, they do all of that. Like, you touch people all the time, and guess what happens? They're healed. So you have a touching ministry. So hello, who touched you? Everybody touches you, man. So obviously, people touched you. And Jesus is like, no. That's not what I'm talking about. Who touched me with intent? There's a difference. All this is not what I'm talking about. Who touched me with purpose? Who touched me with some reason in mind? Because it's different from this. And then the text just tells us he waits. He just waits. Verse 32. He goes on to say, right here, and he looked around to see who had done it. Who did that? Who touched me? Why is he waiting? Why is he waiting? He's waiting because he doesn't want her to hide in the shadows anymore. He's waiting because he wants her to look into his face, to feel his tenderness, and to receive his loving words. He wants her to experience relationship. She got what she came for, but Jesus was ready to give her way more than she wanted. She got healing, but he wanted to seal her belief. He healed her body, but now he wants to seal her belief. Look at verse 33. But the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came in fear. Why? Why would she come in fear and trembling? Because she knew she broke their law and risked everything. And now I contaminated this whole crowd, and I contaminated this Jewish rabbi. Is he going to shame me out in public? They lived, by the way, first century in an honor and shame culture. It was a part of their world. They did that, and they would just publicly shame people all the time. Was the crowd going to cancel her? I mean, what was going to happen? She's not allowed to go anywhere anymore ever again? What's about to happen here? And then she fell down before him and told him the whole truth. She fell down before him. Same thing Jairus did. Fell down before him. Powerful things happen when you fall at the feet of Jesus. Both of them got everything they wanted when they fell. And he sealed her belief. There's no running this time. She told him everything. She told him the whole truth. Like, you have no idea. It's been 12 years. He's like, I have no idea. No, I actually know. I know all this. But he didn't interrupt her. He just let her tell the whole story. And he wanted to hear. He wanted to hear it from her lips. And he wanted this whole crowd to hear this. And he needed Jairus to hear this. He was going to need this to stir his faith because what was about to happen to him. And what happened next has never come across the mouth of the Messiah ever again. He says something to her that he never says to anybody else. Notice the reward that she just gets. And he said to her, daughter. Can you just think about that for a minute? Daughter, your faith has made you well. She's been defeated, and now she's daughter. Before she can run away, it's, no, you have a new identity. You have a new purpose. You have a new family. You've not been connected to anybody now, but I need this whole room to know that it wasn't the cloak, it wasn't the hem, it wasn't the skirt, it wasn't the tassel that healed you. There's not healing in these particular clothes. Healing is in me, and it's your faith that has made you well. You reached to the right person. And now you're in, and now you're mine. And I want everybody in this room to know that no matter whatever you've done, you're mine. And I am yours, and you are mine, and you are daughter. And that word daughter changed her life. Daughter. You're in. You were outside, but now you're inside. All of you, every part of you. You have a new identity. You have dignity. Receive it. Receive it. Daughter. You're now family. She also got favor. He tells her to go in peace. Peace is the Hebrew word for peace is shalom. And it means, literally the phrase could be go into peace. It's speaking of wholeness, well-being, prosperity, security, friendship, and salvation. Walk in the favor of God, daughter. Receive all that I have, I now give to you as a daughter of the King. Walk in that. Now, you used to walk with shoulders shrunk and worried about contaminating. Now, I want you to walk out in confidence that God has placed you here for a purpose with a reason, and you can step out of your home day in and day out in confidence as daughter, and you get to walk in favor. You're in my family now, and you have my favor on your life now. And now you have a future. He says, what does he say? Be healed of your disease. In other words, it ain't ever coming back. Jesus responded to the pain of her disease and healed her body. And then he sealed her belief. Loved ones, what a picture of what Jesus does for you and me. Marked by the disease of sin. When you come and repent of your sins and turn to Christ in faith, you receive a new name, daughter and son. And you receive the blessing and the favor and the shalom, the peace of God on your life that allows you to endure all things. And you receive a future and a hope in Christ. Now, as this whole thing plays out, here's where it closes. You got your boy Jairus. And you got to be thinking, I've already blown it as a dad, and now you got Vicky over here taking my time? What the heck, Jesus? We don't have time to waste. Like, I don't know if she's going to be dead by the time we get home. We got to get a move on. Like, we have to go now. Awesome, healed, let's move on. No sermon, draw the conclusion, let's pray and move on. Listen to the news that he gets here. While he was still speaking, there came from the ruler's house, and someone said, hey, your daughter's dead. Wow, talk about horrible bedside manner. Why trouble your teacher any further? And Jesus said to the ruler, essentially it's a really kind of an interesting way of saying it. He's more like ignoring him. He just says, now we're going. We're going. And notice what he says is that Jesus takes impossible and it's an opportunity. Every time the impossible happens, it's an opportunity for Jesus. You just got to trust his time in it. His timetable's not my timetable. His timetable is not your timetable. And Jesus brings a specific word of faith into this whole situation. He says, listen, I don't want you to fear. I want you to have faith. I want you to believe. And essentially he's saying, keep on believing. Even when it gets bad, keep on believing. Can I just give you that today? In the world that you're living in today, right now, keep on believing. Keep on holding on to belief. Even when it gets worse, with Christ, it's better than it would be if you didn't have him. And keep on believing. Keep on believing. Hold on to that. And it's in that atmosphere of faith that he gives a word of hope. He says, look at this. He says, he allowed no one to follow him except Peter and John and his brother James. And they came to the house of the ruler of the synagogue, and Jesus saw commotion and people weeping and wailing loudly. And when he had entered, he said to them, why are you making commotion and why are you weeping? Now, let me just stop right there. And when the funerals in the first century, let me just say they were bomb. They were awesome. And you're like, that's really morbid. No, they were awesome because our funerals are stupid. Why? Because you have to sit there and you just have to cry. And just endure it and have to look like put together, and you've got to just make sure everything's okay. And in the first century world, and honestly, Hebrew funerals, even to this very day, men take off their jackets and chuck it at the coffin, and they're yelling at the coffin, and they're screaming and weeping and wailing. That's what the text says. That's what they were doing. And he was a Jewish religious leader, and he was wealthy, and so they hired that was a profession. I'm up for that, man. I'd love to yell at somebody and get paid for it. I kind of do that now, don't I? Actually, a little bit. Kind of. Anyway, but they're yelling and throwing their jackets and, oh, this is over. It's the end. It's the end. It's the end. And Jesus is like, what the heck, guys? Like, why are you doing this? And then he offers hope. She's not dead. She's just asleep. And what they say next is hilarious. Because what happens next is they say, okay, verse 40, they laughed at him. And this is the funny part, because that's not funny. Because you and I have people in our lives that try to hijack our hope all the time. I'm going to hope, I'm going to hope, I'm going to hope, I'm going to hope. And they're like, you're dumb, you're dumb, you're dumb. Awesome, thanks. What do you do with those people? Do you do what Jesus does? Right here, look what does the text say? He put them all outside. That's what I'm doing. Get out of here. Like, just get out of here. Like, you're not going to be hopeful. You're not going to be full of faith. You're no longer allowed in my sphere of influence. So just go somewhere else. I don't care where you go, but you just can't stay here. And Jesus kicks them out. I love that. It's bouncer Jesus. And he took the child's father and mother and those who were with him and went in where the child was. And you just got to picture it. The disciples, he only took 3, and he kicks everybody out. There are 7 people in this home: mom, dad, daughter, Jesus, and Peter, James, and John. And here they are. They're going, and the disciples slip off to the corner. Why? Because they've seen, because they know. It was only a few months prior to this that Jesus stood beside his bed at his home and healed his mom. They knew what was about to happen was going to change this young girl's life and was going to change this family's life. And so they just backed off and was like, let Jesus do his thing, man. I'm just going to let him do his thing. It's going to be awesome. And we're just going to sit back and we're going to be polite. And as these two embrace, mom and dad embrace, Jesus just sneaks on by, goes back into that back room, stands on the other side of that bed, and he just gets low. And he speaks a word of love. He grabs her by the hand, and what does he say? Talitha kumi, which means, little daughter, I say to you, arise. It's the very same phrase probably her mom would use every morning to wake her up. A tender love. Honey, it's time to get up. Let's get up. Let's do this. We got a new day ahead of us. And he speaks that word of love. And then what does he do? He reaches down and he holds her hand. Blood starts to flow all the way up her arms. Breath back into her lungs. Sits up. This 12-year-old girl's alive. And Jesus speaks of 2 specific ways in which he loves her. Number 1 is super practical. Get this girl some mac and cheese, because every 12-year-old girl loves some mac and cheese. I know it doesn't say that in your Bible. I just added that. Not that I have a habit of doing that, but I just think that whatever the first century mac and cheese was, that's definitely what she got. 43 says, and he strictly charged them that no one should say this. No, don't tell anybody. And then he said, give her something to eat. Give her something to eat. Well, why would he say don't tell anybody? Can you imagine Peter? I know this is Peter. Jesus, this is awesome. Can you imagine showing up to our next place in town? Guys, this is Jesus, and before we've got the pre-act. The girl who used to be dead is now alive. Have at it. I mean, who wouldn't show up at that? Who's not showing? I want to see the dead girl. I want to see the dead girl. Like, so much credibility for Jesus, right? Maybe. Jesus wasn't worried about his reputation. He was worried about hers. Because the 12-year-old in 7th grade doesn't make a lot of friends who used to be dead and is now alive. Zombies don't get asked on prom dates. Girls who used to be dead that are now alive don't get married and have kids. And Jesus said, hey, I know what happened. Mom, Dad, you know what happened. These disciples know what happened. God knows what happens, and she knows what happened. Why don't we just let this whole thing play out? And let's let this girl live. You know what this is teaching you and me today? A powerful, powerful, powerful lesson that Jesus can handle our problems. No matter how permanent it feels. He can handle it. So what are the lessons? Let me give them to you. Very easy. We learn them from 3 different characters in the story. Number 1, Jairus teaches us that Jesus hears our pleas. Cry out to him. Cry out to him. What are you waiting for? Cry out to him. The woman teaches us that he heals our pain. No matter how long it's been, he heals our pain. Reach out to him. And this little girl, a powerful moment. He handles our problems. Trust in him. Why? Because he is the one that delivers the defeated. Father, we are grateful for the power and the clarity of your word. As we're sitting in this moment, we want to reflect. A simple time of reflection. Every head bowed, every eye closed, nobody looking around. I'm not going to manufacture a moment. I'm not going to interject some hyper emotion. I'm just going to ask you in this moment to not move and to listen to the Holy Spirit. God has spoken to you. Respond. Danny's going to lead us in a moment to respond. This is your opportunity to pray, to kneel at your seat, to receive that which God has for you. You know, today what I wanted to do more than anything was I didn't want you to pass notes. I didn't want you to write notes. I didn't want you to do a ton of that. I wanted you to see Jesus in this and experience his powerful presence. The art of balance of a sermon is not that you walk away with more information, but you walk away saying, I saw God today. I heard from God today. So I pray that you solidify that today. Father God, just continue to speak to us in this moment. In Jesus' name.